welcome. Tim Hughes here, CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Haythem Hammour, and we're going to talk about cybersecurity. Really relevant at the moment with some of the things that is going on in Ukraine and places like that, and I think around the world. But before we get into talk about cybersecurity and the impacts that nation-state cybersecurity can have on individuals, Haythem, where can people find you?
Well, you can reach me out on my website, which is Hammour, which is my last name, .net, which is HAMMOUR.net. And over there, you can find like a link to my calendar and also a link to my old social media kind of like account. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. So let's get into it. So the first question is, from me, really is just to make sure that we have a level playing field for everybody. What's your definition of cybersecurity? How do you see the world of cybersecurity right now?
So cybersecurity used to be for a lot of people an IT kind of like a security.
Yeah.
But over time it evolved and became like more a part of business, and it became like the main risk in business. So I would say cybersecurity right now, anything that can alter your business. So using technology or using any kind of like methods, for example, like disinformation, misinformation over social media. So anything actually related to technology that we use in our day life right now.
Because I got sent a DM on Twitter the other day, and it was just a link, and I don't click on links, so the person had obviously realized their account had been hacked, and it said they'd actually tweeted something: if you get a DM from me, don't click on the link, because it basically takes your password and they'll take over your account. So there can be some things which are kind of like minor. I mean, if my Twitter account gets hacked, it's not the end of the world. But we've got right through to where nation states are basically targeting certain countries. I'm going to use the term a DDoS account, as in DDoS as an attack, as in what they do is that they just keep pinging an account until it falls over. So give us this idea about what the world is today in terms of cybersecurity and what's going on out there.
So basically, like a few years ago, I mean, like everybody like knows that like a nation state is a big thing, but the people felt the pain or the real kind of like risk or danger is like in 2020 December, when they discovered that someone or some group, like people say it's Russia, but I don't like to link that to countries because you never know. But generally, a group actually was able to hack into SolarWind. SolarWind is a cybersecurity company that actually, let's say, it's involved in multiple infrastructures for large organizations and governments around the world.
Yes, so, it's used. It was being used by a number of departments in the U.S. government. Yeah.
Yeah. And the way that they discovered this, it was by total, I wouldn't say like coincidence, but there was an analyst who was sitting and suddenly noticed that one of the employees used a different device. So he decided to pursue that and make sure that this is a new device for the employee. And when they contacted the employee, they discovered that the employee did not change his device. And this was actually a kind of like an attack on the network, and that was actually linking to, and this is how like everything got exposed to the public, or to let's say like to the group, the security group, and then they kind of like expose it to the public. So without that person like having just kind of like, he noticed that there's something off. So imagine that one person kind of like exploded all of this, and if it wasn't for him, we would have been like vulnerable until this day, or we would have been actually exploited for a very long time without anyone noticing that. And the problem with, for example, the SolarWind, it happened on the supply chain, which is basically when you embed a malware into a software that is used for different purposes, and by doing so, you kind of like become part of get a backdoor to the software that is actually used globally everywhere.
So they were, if I recall, they were actually using the software to basically tunnel in to the systems that it was loaded on.
Yes. So basically, what they did, it's they embedded the code in one of the SolarWind management softwares, and they actually embedded it in the update. So imagine, like, this is one of the areas that everyone is cautious about, like trying to complete like patching and updating their softwares as soon as possible, because that's how you kind of like stay up to date in terms of like security. So anyone who made that update in their platform actually became part of the exploitation, or became vulnerable to the SolarWind attack. So it gave a backdoor to that software, and basically they were able to access the whole infrastructure and move laterally. And that's the other part. So after they get in to kind of like whatever that management system is installed, they started like moving laterally within the organization, within the perimeter that is available.
Right. And so why is this important? What is it that why is it important that we know about this stuff?
So, good question. For two reasons. Because to understand the magnitude of that kind of like that risk for the general public, because all of our infrastructure actually right now are automated, run through systems that are connected. That's include the national grid, railway, and soon we're going to have like a autonomous car. Well, already we have cars actually that are connected with this. So all of these kind of like platform systems can be disrupted in a way that could make a lot of damage and a lot of harm. So people in general need to know about that kind of like risk, so they can, for example, pursue their kind of like their leaders to kind of like make actionable and really take measures from this kind of like risk, because you cannot eliminate that risk, but you can reduce the amount of vulnerability that you have. The other part is any attack, as I mentioned before, like a few minutes ago, any attack actually starts from somewhere. And usually we say like everything could be an attack surface, a way for a hacker to kind of like get into a system. So usually the weakest link in this whole thing is the humans. Like, for example, let's say you're working in the national grid somewhere in the world, and you have your phone and you use your phone for your social media, anything. So attackers usually try to target a person like that, a person who would give them access to the perimeter of that, for example, national grid, by impersonating him. So the first step that usually like people should take is actually educate their people to kind of like become aware if they are vulnerable, or if there's any kind of attack. Like, for example, you don't click on links, which is that's a good thing. I think everybody should do that. But even myself, I've been phished multiple times. Like I consider myself cautious, but over time you get that kind of fatigue, or sometimes like you're in a hurry and kind of like click quickly on
Some of
something.
the emails you get, you go, is that right, or something,
Yeah. So like when you're focused, you can kind of like pay attention to that, but you cannot like be 100% like right all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was once given some advice by a technical person that because he was an architect of these things, and I said, so how do you start? And he said, you always have to assume that you've been hacked, and you work backwards from there.
Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
No, and what do you think to that?
So I think like you don't have to be paranoid, but you have to be kind of like I would say like aware of your environment. So if we're talking like for regular person, just like me, you, like always look for things that doesn't look right. If your computer is slow, there is a reason for that. If your phone actually like keep acting like, for example, it's kind of like restarting, rebooting, or disconnecting all the time, there's something off. So whenever you see something not in place, try to find the root cause of that, and this is really important. And it's just like sometimes like people, for example, like me, I become paranoid about those things to the point of like whenever like I feel something that is off, I kind of like find it's kind of like a false it's a false positive.
Right. And I think that some, we all need to look out for those things, because I mean, some of the phishing emails that I get, I mean, they're just so they just some of the things I get from from parcel companies and stuff like that look just so like they're from the parcel company, and you just need to make sure that you just don't click on the links.
Yeah, and it always like I tell people like always go to the basics of security in general, like just to protect your accounts, even if you got like, for example, hacked in terms of like your device got been under attack. At least you can protect your like online accounts, like your email, social media accounts, because those matter too. And the thing that I've noticed like recently, that a lot of people like they don't utilize the multi-factor authentication on their email accounts or on their social media accounts. And this is one of the things that are like quite important. It's a free service that actually provided by those providers. Use them. It will give you like a lot of protection. That's the first.
So that's the two, or that's the two-step authentication. So when you log in, it then sends you a text or something to your phone, and then you have a number that you can then type in or something like that. So you know that if someone is logging in to your account, or if you get a text and you haven't tried to log into your account, you know that someone's trying to hack you.
Yep. That's it. That's basically exactly it. So I usually tell people don't use SMS, because it's also like super vulnerable these days. Because right now self-service is not like those SMS are not protected kind of like way of communication.
Right.
If you're a specific target, if you're someone that is targeted in person, they can actually fish your kind of like your SMS. So there is something called Authenticator Apps that you can use instead of like SMS, and it's basically like a random token that kind of like generates.
I have to get into Restream this product. I have to have I have an app. I'm just explaining that I have an app on my phone that when I want to get into this, it gives me a number on my phone, which I then put into this into Restream.
Yep. And even Microsoft has a really good authenticator app that I really love. The reason that I like it is because for Microsoft products, you don't even need to use a password at all. It automatically, as soon as you try to log in, it will automatically send a notification to your phone, and you just approve that login.
Is that like a single sign-on, or?
And so it's basically single sign-on is just using your specific account for multiple, or specific identity service for multiple services. So this is more of like a passwordless kind of like authentication. So if you are using your Microsoft account for as a single sign-on account on another platform, it will behave the same thing, and it will ask you like to kind of like approve that on your Authenticator app. And that's even better because you don't have to type your password. You don't have to like because sometimes even typing password, people kind of like see you typing that password and kind of like steal your password. And some people end up like writing their password in, like on their monitors, which is kind of like crazy. But trust me, a lot of people do that.
I've been around IT departments or any kinds of departments where people have got their password on a sticky, you know, and it's yeah, that is funny.
Yeah, and the other important thing that I always ask people to do is actually like make sure you have some sort of automated backup to your data,
Right.
because back in the days, ransomware used to be like something that kind of like targets big corporations, governments. Now it targets everyone. Like even someone at home could get targeted. If your data is valuable, you're going to be paying like whatever it is, $50, $100. It might be nothing for you, but it's something for someone else, and it's a risk for you actually.
And so your recommendation is to use to back up. Is that backup onto into a separate disk or a backup in the, you know, like the iCloud or a cloud-based storage? I mean, what's your view on that?
So for me, I don't use like any kind of like disk backup, physical backup, or at home. Basically, I use like those online storage. And one of the things that I really love is actually like the OneDrive for Microsoft, because it not only backup, it actually syncs all of your devices at the same time. So if it happened like right now, you'll have your data until the last minute. That's what I like about it. But generally, like use iCloud or use Google Drive. Just make sure you have your data backup all the time.
So I've actually got a physical disk that we stored stuff on, and they've just announced to us that it's out of support. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that we're going to get a new disk. We're going to unplug the old one, but we're going to drive with the old one to my parents' house. So we're going to have a backup 200 miles away, which is no physical connection to the.
Yeah, and this is actually like one of the things that also like prefer, like always backup should be like in another place than your home. This is like a part of like disaster recovery.
It is, yes, because you know you never know what's going to happen, and you could have multiple versions of the data here, but they're all going to go if it's, you know, a plane lands on us or something. I mean, I live 30 minutes from Heathrow, so you know a plane could easily land on us, and then all those versions of the data have gone. But
yeah, and actually, like disaster recovery is another area that is important when you are like when you want to like kind of reduce your risk from nation state attack, because they tell you when you get attacked, you need to be calm. Being calm is not like just sitting and doing nothing. Being calm is actually be prepared, and being prepared is actually like having like a disaster recovery plan. And that's actually not just for organizations, even for people at home, they should have a disaster recovery plan just to know exactly what to do when things go wrong.
because if you've got photographs that have, you know, of children or holidays, it means something to you and it has a value to it. And you know, if you've got a hard drive at home and it gets hacked, then you lose it. But if you have a hard drive and then you disconnect it and then you my parents live 200 miles away, so we'll drop a copy there. We've then got 2 bits of data in 2 different places.
Yeah, that's actually the right thing to do, because even online storage is not like 100% protected. That's for a fact. Anything is connected to the internet is not 100% protected. So if someone get access to your account, to your email, they can get access to anything else. They can get access to even your online data. They can hijack it and tell you like, hey, if you don't pay your ransom, we can take over. But at least it reduces the risk in general, or the impact. Let's put it that way.
So in terms of summaries, use authentication. So what's it called? The 2 types of the 2. What's it? The authentication.
Yeah. It used to be 2-factor authentication. Now it's multi-factor authentication.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Take backups.
and create, always have backup to your data, which is, this is how we kind of like protect that data. Use encryption, and try to use try to use encryption, and try to use kind of like VPN whenever like you're in a public area. And the other thing that a lot of people kind of like don't do, even myself, I'm guilty of that. We always, like, when we use a user account on our computer, we use like one that has like administrative privileges. So the best way to do that is actually like create another user, and this is like for your daily use. And whenever you want to install an application or make changes to your computer, you can just supply the device with your administrative account, and that's it. By doing that, you kind of like being really protecting your device from any kind of like attack.
That's good advice. Yeah.
Yep. The other thing is actually also like patching. We talked about that earlier. You have to like make sure that you have your device and your software, your data, all your operating system, your softwares are always up to date.
Right, of course. Yeah, as up to date as you can, because of the fact that people are generally hacking old versions. I mean, you know, we call them cash point machines. Where you could go to a bank and get cash outside, they were running on Windows 95 for years.
Yep. And there's actually like you can actually download it from the internet, or from, you can get it like on the dark web. It's called the jackpot. You can just put it on a USB and just find an access to that ATM machine on the side, which is usually it's on the side. You plug in that USB and you literally just enter a code whenever you want money. You just go to the ATM machine, enter a specific code, and it just throws out money. So that's why they call it jackpot. So, but it's still happening, like in some places, like in Africa, because they're still using like old systems that are not connected to the to a really secured infrastructure.
Haythem, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us about cybersecurity. It's an amazing thing, and I can imagine it's a fast-moving subject as well. Thank you for your insight. Remind people where they can get hold of you.
Yeah, you can reach me out on. You can go to my website and you'll find like all the details to my contacts, including social media accounts. I'm available on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and basically I even have like a calendar there where you can actually like book any time with me. You can also like just fill out a form, contact me. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And really, thank you for having me, Tim, tonight.
Hey, you're welcome.
And let's do it more often, because there's a lot to talk about cybersecurity. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. Thank you.